and I'll introduce us and then we'll just jump right into it. Oh, we are live on YouTube. So, ladies and gentlemen, fellow Freedom Crusaders out there in the world, welcome to our inaugural edition of Freedom Crusaders TV. This is Paul Hutchings coming to you live from my home office here in Blackfoot, Idaho. And I'm really excited because today I have a very, very special guest who I'll introduce here in just a second. But just as I was explaining to Nicole, this is our first edition that we've ever done this interview series. And the goal here is to produce content where we interview real people out there in the world. So not necessarily gurus and, experts, but like real people who have a goal of financial freedom and who are taking action with what they've got and making big strides towards creating that financial freedom in their lives. And we'll define financial freedom. Financial freedom can be fairly vague. So we want to define financial freedom using Robert Kiyosaki's terms, where Robert Kiyosaki says that he says financial freedom is not how much money you make; it's about how that which you bring in goes out and produces more for you. And so the goal here is to produce enough passive income from investments that it will surpass your monthly expenses and then eventually get you and me and Nicole and anyone who wants to a point where we are financially free, where our time is freed up and we can go out and do the things that we, really want to do. And Nicole is someone who I've known via the internet and also via an audio mastermind that we've been doing for quite some time. We actually haven't really connected for an extended period of time. We haven't really gotten to know each other all that well. We've met a couple of times in person, just like at a coffee shop as she was driving through town. But Nicole is someone who has a very successful traditional business. So she's an entrepreneur, and here's one of the big things that made me really excited and want to interview Nicole today is she's recently, her and her family have been very active in actually getting out there and acquiring rental properties and growing their passive income. So Nicole, welcome to Freedom Crusaders TV. Thank you so much for taking some time to join us today. How are you? It looks like you're joining us from your car. Is that right?
It's got the best phone charger. So.
Oh, awesome. Always good to plan ahead.
The car might come up in the conversation as well.
The car might, you say?
Yeah.
Oh, cool. And okay, so before we get into it, one other thing that I did want to mention is that we are proponents of progress, not perfection. And so you might see, Nicole, she's plugging in from her car. The audio might be, you guys see I'm wearing these little headphones. So this isn't like a professionally produced show, but we're just getting information out there that can help people. So Nicole, why don't we start by telling would you mind telling me just about your background? Where did you grow up? Like, how did you come into this world and kind of get your start in life?
I'm from the Salt Lake City area of Utah, and I grew up in a real small farming community that now is just all big box stores. And I went to Rick's College, which is a religious school in Idaho, where I met my husband of 33 years. And we traveled around a little bit. We lived in Wyoming some, we lived in Utah some, but we ended up back here in eastern Idaho. And we have the Tetons out our window and enjoy a really, really excellent quality of life. We're very fortunate.
So you grew up in Salt Lake City, came to Idaho, went to school, met your husband. What's your husband's name?
Curtis.
Okay. So you guys met at Rick's College, which is now BYU, Idaho, right?
Yes. It's the romance capital of the West, I guess.
So cool. So when you were in college, did you what were your aspirations? Did you have like a career path that you were planned to go down?
Yes, I majored in home economics because that was the route that I was projected to do, is have 6 kids and be a stay-at-home mom. So that was the goal. I had 3 kids and I've never been a stay-at-home mom.
And your kids, are they boys, girls, combination?
The oldest is 30. He's my business partner. And I have a girl 28 and a girl 26.
Wow. So a boy and 2 girls, and your son is your business partner. That's got to be a fascinating story. So tell us, when you went to college and you were kind of like in a, some might say societal cookie cutter role of, hey, she's going to be a stay-at-home mom. She's going to do home economics. And what happened? Like, did you in college say, hey, I want to go a different route, or was it after college, or how did you make that transition from that to becoming an entrepreneur?
Well, my family has never been a traditional family. My dad was an entrepreneur. He owned fast food restaurants all over the West. And so I spent my years growing up working in those restaurants and moving around quite a bit. So traveling's in my blood. And so the business that I have now is a traveling business. My husband started a playground company. We travel all over Idaho, Utah, Wyoming, and we used to do Montana. And so traveling saleswoman is basically what my traditional business is. I love it. We have about 6 or 7 employees, and it's very fast paced. It's a lot of work. I like it. And that's kind of the way my whole upbringing was, it was always about business. Conversations at even Christmas and at Thanksgiving were always business conversations.
That's all growing up when you were a little girl. Mm-hmm. It was all about business. Yep. So tell us about your father. Was he was an entrepreneur? He owned fast food restaurants. Were they franchise
yes.
restaurants?
Yeah. Yep.
So
he owned Taco Times. And so when he was ready to retire, the people managing the Taco Times bought them. And then he had that residual income for his retirement, my mom's retirement. My mom never worked out of the home a day in her life. And that was their decision, that she was a stay-at-home mom. But they had the luxury of her being able to do that because of the income coming from those variety of sources.
So you say variety. So did he do other things with his income aside from the franchise stores?
Well, he had a couple of other irons in the fire, but the franchise stores were the most successful. He had 7 at one point. So, when he sold those off, he had 7 sources of income till, they both passed away.
Wow. So what were some of the things, like, did you learn some things regarding entrepreneurship from your dad? Like, did you learn mostly just by watching him, or did he teach you things that come to mind that have been helpful to you?
I learned that I did not want to be in the fast food business. It's tough. There's so many moving parts. The economy, and playgrounds aren't any different. It's just as tough. There's so many moving parts. The economy plays a role. The weather plays a role. Today we're building a playground. The holes that we're digging are full of 10 inches of water. I mean, business is just that way. And so I would have to say, gosh, just moving forward, he was very persistent. And that's probably what I learned from him.
Mm. Did he want you to be a business person when you were a little girl?
Yeah,
Did he kind of encourage you?
He wanted me to take over the Taco Times.
Wow. And you decided not to do that?
Oh, no. I the last time I flipped a taco, I was 25.
So you actually worked in the stores, and you developed a love-hate relationship for tacos or entrepreneurship. Indeed. You liked entrepreneurship, but you didn't want to be a taco flipper. Well, that's interesting because, and it's also interesting to think about business from the standpoint of a lot of times people think about business and they're like, there's that book, The E-Myth by Michael Gerber. Are you familiar with that book?
Mm-hmm.
It's like, I want to be an entrepreneur because I want to be free and I want to have all this freedom. And then you get into entrepreneurship and then you start to be jealous of the people who have jobs, right? You're like, oh my gosh, they've got like a steady check. They don't have to, they've got all this freedom, and we're like working sometimes 10, 12 hours a day. So that's just,
I know. I met with a customer. He said, I'm retiring next month. And I was a little bit jealous.
Oh, he was an employee and he's retiring, right?
Yeah, he's the parks director of a playground we're doing in Rigby, as a matter of fact, just right down the road from both of us. And he says, yeah, I put in my 20 years and I'm going to retire. So yeah, I'm a little bit jealous of that part of it, but it's a lifestyle.
Yeah.
It's a choice and it's a lifestyle.
Yeah. So your husband started this business, is that right, that you're in currently?
Yes.
And does he still actively work in the business
You
alongside you?
know, he retired about 2 times so far. And then when we get busy this time of year, when people are trying to get things done before the snow flies, he usually helps out. So even though he's semi-retired at 57, he does help out during the busy season.
So it sounds like he's discovered the real freedom formula, which is start a business and then have your wife and kids run it. Just kidding.
I think so. Absolutely.
That's awesome. Cool. So, what, before we get into some of the real estate stuff, I'd love to ask you, like, what are some of the, what is your concept of financial freedom? Like, what are you striving for, like both with your business and your investments? Like, is there a vision that you're moving towards that you could share with us?
Yeah, in a general sense, it's just to be substantially wealthy for myself and for my future generations. And I really hadn't thought about that in that manner up until I joined the mastermind that you're a big part of. And I consider you one of my mentors and helping to form that. And I have a real specific goal, but for in general terms, it's to have substantial wealth for now, for me to enjoy now with my husband. And we love to just drive around and do outdoor activities. We live in the most beautiful place to do outdoor things. We love to hike and camp and that kind of stuff. So so I want that for now, but then I want to set up that for future generations. And that's where the real estate came in. It's like setting that up for children and grandchildren. And we have 3 grandchildren now. So that's when that started to become part of my visualization.
I love it. So tell me this. It sounds like you had a shift in thinking to where you went from maybe not having this vision of wealth and freedom to now having this vision of wealth and freedom. What was there something, was there an idea, or was there a thought or a book or a mentor, or like, what was the thing that came in and said, you know, I'm going this path where I've got my business and I'm excited. Everything's good, but then all of a sudden you're like, wow, you know, there's these other things that I can do where I can build a life of freedom. Like, what were the things that came in to make that shift? And then also, did you believe in yourself always? Like, did you think that it was possible?
Yeah. You know, it happened slowly over a long period of time, but I would have to say there's books that really made a big difference for me. And I think the very first one that I read that said, oh my goodness, I can change the way I look at the world is Eckhart Tolle, The Power of Now.
You're kidding.
That was about 10 years ago. And I really shifted my mindset. And then Napoleon Hill is huge for me. James Allen, I can always listen to him and just really get feeling good. And then I listen to and I read often The Science of Getting Rich. That's key. And I've got a torn up copy I carry with me always, and I read out of that often. And it's retraining your subconscious mind. So when you talk about confidence, Paul, I'm reminded of that, the number 4 item in the Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill, where he says, I have clearly written down my chief aim in life, and I will endeavor forever until I have developed enough self-confidence for its attainment. And that's without being egotistical, without being, oh, it's all about me, because it takes a team. That is the thing that I get up in the morning and I feed my subconscious mind with self-confidence, mantras, auto-suggestion, and I have a better day if I do that.
So it sounds like it's not you get all this confidence and then you're done, but more of a process. Is that right?
Oh, absolutely. And anybody that's on this journey totally gets that. It's like there's this thing that we all aspire for called the truth. But the
Yeah.
truth for me today is different than the truth for me tomorrow. And it changes with my ability to grow and learn and have more self-confidence and faith and gratitude. Yeah, definitely. It's a journey for sure. And anybody that's like just starting out, like just do something, like go for a walk, read a book, get on this mastermind that you do every morning. That's just absolutely phenomenal. It's a great way to start the day. Listen to podcasts like this, do something that starts to shift the way you think about yourself.
I love it. Great advice, Nicole. You're such an inspiration to me. And I'm just so grateful to know you. And I'm so excited to be connecting with you here, like via video, because this is just like, it's next level, right? Like you hear someone talk for a couple of minutes on a conference call, but being able to see each other and dig into, you know, your experiences and your thoughts and your past is just really a blessing for me. So thank you for being here.
Yes, isn't that fun? I love this technology.
Isn't it fun? Before we jump into the real estate, I wanted to jump back here for just a second because you've got 3 kids. They're grown. It sounds like your oldest is your business partner. And then you've got 2 younger girls who are in their 20s. I've got 4 little boys. And I imagine that there are other freedom crusaders out there like us who are parents and who have kids. What would be some lessons or some tips that you would give freedom crusading parents? Like it could either be like just some general parenting tips, or it can be tips on, you know, how to manage your time as a freedom crusader while also striving to build a strong family.
I don't know that I'm qualified. I have to say that my kids come home for Thanksgiving and they call me and they call their dad, and I feel so blessed. So we did something right, because they want us in their lives, even as adults. And I don't know how that happened, but I'm eternally grateful because they're awesome people. They're so rich and enriching my life. But what we did to make that happen, I don't know, because I just feel, I mean, like when they call and just want to visit and hang out, and I'm like, wow, how did I get to be so lucky? So I don't know. I don't know what we did, but I'm really glad we did it.
Were there, thinking back on when your kids were young, were there rituals that you did together as a family? Like whether it be like outings you did, or like reading together, or ideas you tried to teach your kids as they were growing older?
Yeah, there's a few. We always do Thanksgiving, and we don't make a big deal out of Christmas. We had little traditions where we had little recitals where the kids would do whatever they wanted to do, and it could be goofy or it could be music, and so those were fun. And then we did a lot of camping together. One story is we live out here in the middle of nowhere. It's just beautiful. We live near the trees, and we'll be driving at night, and a raccoon or a fox or an owl. Sometimes you'll scare up an owl in the brush, and it'll fly in front of the car. And I would always say, oh, it's a skunk. That's a good omen. Or it's a fox. That's a good omen. And after a while, one of my kids said, Mom, why every time an animal goes across the front of our car, why is that a good omen? And I said, well, just because I said it is. So now as adults, you know, they'll see something like that and they'll just say, oh, that's a good omen. So you could just pick a good omen and have anything be a good omen. And that's just kind of the attitude we have, is to pick out the good things about any situation and call it good, whether it is or not.
I love that. And speaking of like ideas of truth and how you're a truth seeker and I'm a truth seeker, those types of things don't necessarily sound like the things you'd learn at BYU Idaho. So like if you like as far as like, you know, like, oh, that's a good omen, you know? I'm just curious, like it sounds like and we don't have to go into any great detail, but it sounds like you have developed quite an open mind as you've, you know, gone through your years of life. Would that be an accurate statement? Like open to ideas
Oh,
outside of the box, you know?
yeah. Well, how can you read Napoleon Hill and not have a broader perspective? I mean, just phenomenal. And James Hanel and Neville Goddard. I really like the oldies. I just really love the older guys because Eugene Ferson, like he just writes about how the spirit is part of our everyday makeup, and to walk around with that spirit as a spirit guide. Yeah, definitely. And I don't think it's so different anymore. I think that's more readily acceptable, and I think people like Napoleon Hill have made it more accessible to more people. Yeah, absolutely.
So Eugene Fursa, how do you spell that? I've never heard that name before.
Eugene Ferson, Ferson, and his is the Power of Being, Being.
Okay. The Power of Being.
Oh, I really, really like that book. It's awesome.
The Power of Being by Eugene Ferson. All right, a new little treat for us all. I have never heard of that book, so I'm excited to read that. And you mentioned The Power of Now. Funny thing, I just picked that up last night and started to read it. It was on my bookshelf, and just last night I started to read that by Eckhart Tolle. Is it Tolle? Is that how you say his last name?
I think so, yeah. Oh, what a wonderful book. Yeah, good stuff.
So tell me, how important do you think spirituality is on the Freedom Crusaders journey? Like, it sounds like you've got some spiritual beliefs that help you have faith, and, you know, like, would you say that stuff's pretty important?
Yeah, I think we try to separate them, and we're just as much spiritual or non-physical as we are physical beings. And for some reason, because we can see and feel and touch our beings, we think that's all there is to it. But when people say, oh, coincidence, like me getting this car is something that I fed my subconscious for about 6 months. And I used a procedure that Napoleon Hill calls your major definite purpose. And so when I went to get the car, my logical physical self said, buy a car that you can put all your stuff in, and it needs to be an SUV because you've got to take your family around, et cetera, et cetera. Well, I had fed my subconscious or my spirit self, and you can just look at the subconscious mind as your spiritual part of yourself, which maybe for some people is a little less, has a little bit less stigma to it. And but I had been feeding my subconscious mind the car, you know, that I wanted. And a lot of that was encouraged by Joe Dollar, who drives a Bentley. But I'm like, well, you know, if Joe Dollar can get a Bentley, then Nicole Stoddard can get a Ford Fusion, right? So for about 6 months, I looked at the car every morning and I set it as my major definite purpose. But when I went to get the car, I drove everything but the Fusion. And we drove around all day. I had a really nice gentleman that took me around. We'd bought several cars there before, so he was patient. Well, after it got dark, I finally said, well, let's just go sit in the car instead of the SUV. And I sat in the car and I said, this is it. Immediately, I knew that was it. So some people might not call that a spiritual manifestation, but I do, because I fed my spiritual or my subconscious mind those desirable outcomes. And, you know, I'm happy with the car. I love the car. It was the right fit. And I think that was a spiritual coincidence, not, it was spiritual before it was physical.
And isn't that kind of like the whole crux of goal achievement and personal development? Is that we believe that we can see something in our mind and that we can build faith in it, and that through persistence and action and faith, we can bring that into reality. So I love that story about the car. So it's a Ford Fusion?
Yeah.
A newer one?
Uh-huh. Oh yeah, brand new.
Brand spanking new. Awesome. Awesome. Well, good for you, Nicole. I love that experience. So let me ask you maybe one or two other questions relating to business, and then we'll get into the real estate that you've been involved in recently. So you have a successful business. You've got 6 employees, you said. Is that right?
It goes up to about 10 in the summertime.
6 to 10 employees. Mm-hmm. What do you guys do for customer acquisition? Is it mainly referrals? Do you do advertising? How do you acquire customers?
Well, the people that buy playground equipment are municipalities and developers of property, contractors, and school districts and schools. And so it's really easy to find the customers. So really it's referral and references and having a good reputation.
Okay, cool. And once they buy a playground equipment set, do they buy another one, or is it pretty much a one-time sale?
A little bit of both, but you have to earn their business every single time. And that's kind of what drew me into real estate. It's like, you sell a playground, then you got to go out and sell another and another and another. And so the draw to the real estate was like, well, look, after I pay for this thing, it's going to keep paying me.
Yeah, that's the draw for me too. Residual income, pipeline money, right? Pipeline money. So what are one or two, would you say, of your top business philosophies that have helped you and your family in your traditional business?
Business philosophies, like work with the best, be the best, and do the best every day. Like the people that work with us, my employees are top notch. I just took a week vacation and, just left it in their hands, and I called in twice, and that's all I needed to do, which was really a blessing because they're very, very capable. And then same with the customers. Like we like to work with the best customers, and we can be picky and choosy and work with people that have the ability to do some really cool projects. The mayor of Rigby, oh my goodness, they did an awesome project. Your boys are going to love it. It's a net that is 25 feet in the air. Wow. So they'll be able to climb that high.
Wow, that's amazing. Yeah. What you just mentioned, I think, is so important for business owners because I think a lot of times we have a tendency to go the opposite route. Like we want to save money, we want to be frugal, we want to pay the least amount that we can for employees and other things like that. And Edward Deming, he has a quote that's famous that he says, "Quality always costs less in the end." And Darren Hardy, I have a friend that went and spent some time with Darren Hardy. And Darren Hardy, one of the things that he said was like, my friends, he's paid a bunch of money and he spent like an entire week with Darren Hardy and all these millionaires. And I said to my friend Brandon, what was your biggest takeaway from that whole event? And he says, by far my biggest takeaway was to work with quality. And he said, you want to work with A players is the way that he put it. A players. Yeah. And he said, and according to Darren Hardy, he said, A players will make you money. They don't cost you much, but sometimes we look at it like, oh, A players are more expensive, but he says, no, A players are going to show up to work. They don't have to be motivated. They're self-motivated. If they love what they do and they love you, they're going to be out there in the community talking about your business and bringing more business to you. So I just think that it's so interesting that you mentioned that. It's kind of a mind tweak. So, and you've seen that play out in your business, it sounds like. Yes.
And we're to the point now that, if it's a job that's going to, like you say, cost you money, even though it makes you a little bit of money, like is the value there? And the most value we can do in the marketplace too. It's like, we're such a quality team that, we owe it to the communities to be able to, for them to have a quality product in their playgrounds and in their schools.
I love it. Okay. So let's transition. into the real estate. So tell us a little bit about your real estate journey. Like, it's recent, right? You haven't been investing in real estate all your life. Is that right?
Right.
Okay. So tell us like how you went from not investing in real estate to like now you're a property owner and you have a passive income coming in.
Okay. Reading lots of books and listening to podcasts. We listen to the Bigger Pockets podcast. And I've always wanted to do real estate, but my husband Curtis never has. And I finally got CJ to listen, my son, my business partner, to listen to some Bigger Pockets podcasts. And so after he started to catch that vision, he's like, oh, I get it. I get it. So what we're using our traditional business for is, instead of going out and buying a vacation property for us or going on elaborate vacations, we're taking that income and putting it into real estate. And we've done our first one. It was really, I hope it's our big learner, because it costed a lot more money to get ready to rent than we anticipated, but we muscled through it and got it done. And now it's let's see, we're getting $100 off the garage and $700 off one side and $750 off the other side. It's a duplex.
So say that again, 100 off one side?
Off of the garage.
Oh, wow. So you're renting the garage.
The garage separately. Yeah. Well, we told the renters they could get it for $75 more what their rent was, but neither one of it took it. So we just put it out for $100 and someone else is renting it.
What? Are you serious? I've never heard of that. So you're renting the garage to someone who doesn't even live in the property.
Right.
That is genius. I love it. I love it. Oh my gosh, that's such a great idea. So, Bill Moyse, he's into like these self-storage units, and there are these mobile self-storage units that you can buy that they ship them to you. You like build them and you can put them wherever you want. And so I've been thinking about adding some of those to some of our properties for the increased garage income, right? Like you have. That's so cool. Uh-huh. So you got 100 from the garage, and then did you say it was a duplex?
Yes, 7 from one side and 725 on the other.
Wow. So about $1,525 a month in rental income. Awesome. Yeah. Awesome. So was it challenging? You mentioned that some of the challenges were it ended up costing more to get it fixed up than you originally thought.
Right. Well, and you got to find that out ahead of time. And now we know. When we started diving into the basement, we discovered we had to change the windows from regular windows to egress windows. So that was an expense. And then we had to get an electrical permit and get a real electrician. And that was a big expense. So that was just a learning experience. And now we know. So on older homes, we'll have to expect that kind of thing.
So sometimes people get into real estate and they'll have an experience like you had, and then forever, for the rest of their lives, they'll tell people that real estate is terrible because you might have to hire an electrician and you might have to put in new windows, right? But the way you look at it is you're like, I'm getting an education and I'm learning. And even after those challenges, like, has it been a good experience? Like, would you recommend still other people possibly looking at real estate as an option?
I think there's different ways to do it. You don't have to go fix it up. You could be more of a passive investor if you wanted to. The way I look at it is it's a whole lot like playground construction. You're dealing with all these variables. You got a bid on the job and you might make money, you might not. You've got weather to contend with. And what we did here is when the weather was bad last winter, we just sent our crew up to work on the duplex. So that's what we want to do again, is get something before winter gets here. And then when the guys aren't working, they can work indoors on whatever our next property is. So that's an advantage to us last winter. Our guys got to keep working instead of saying, sorry, you got to take a month off because we can't build playgrounds in the frozen ground. So that helped a lot. Our crew kept working. But you've got to have a high tolerance for randomness. Like you know that, Paul, from all these unexpected random things, and you just say, oh, that's interesting, and push through, because
they never talked about this in the book, right? It's like, wait a minute, Robert Kiyosaki, he never told me this.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. You just kind of got to roll with the punches and take them as they come, and just overcome them, like challenge at a time.
And I wish I'd started younger, but for anybody, if you have any inclination at all towards real estate as a source of passive income, I would start with the book Set for Life. And you can just buy that anywhere on Amazon, Set for Life. And it gives you ideas of how to buy property so it's less painful to your pocketbook. You know, it doesn't cost as much to get involved.
Set for Life. And that's a Bigger Pockets production, right? One of the...
Yes.
Okay, cool. Awesome. Set for Life. And any other real estate books? You said you read some books leading up to your getting into real estate. You mentioned Bigger Pockets, Power of Now, which is not real estate related, Eugene Fersen, which is not real estate related. Any other real estate or investment related books?
I'm reading several of them. Let's see. I think I'm reading Josh Anson's book, and it's how to find and fund great deals. So I'm reading in anything and everything I can get my hands on, because I'd like someone else to share their experience, so maybe I can make fewer mistakes in what I'm doing. And the biggest problem I have is the geographic area that we'd like to invest in is large, like clear from Cheyenne to St. George to here in Eastern Idaho. So that's one of our biggest challenges, is like, where will our next property be? So, but we're looking.
You're looking, I know you are, because you send me like deals all the time. Like I'm getting texts from you and you're like, hey, check this out. We're going to look at this apartment complex. And I'm like, wow, like you're really going for this. That's so awesome and exciting. Yeah. So you did mention one thing that I wanted to highlight, which I think is really admirable. And that is, you said that your business income, so you've got this income coming in from your business. It could be from a job or wherever our income's coming in. And you mentioned a philosophy that I've noticed in the books that I've read that seems to be a really key philosophy for being able to develop freedom. And that is, you said, rather than taking the money that you have in business and going on vacation or buying a luxury vacation property, you're taking that income and you're turning it into income producing assets. And I just think that is such a key to developing freedom, and it takes discipline. Just the other day, I was at the store with my kids, and I probably, this is going to paint me as a bad father, but they wanted to go in and buy a pop, and they've got all this change that they always carry around, and they want to go buy stuff. And I said, no, you guys, law of success number 3, what is it? Savings, Dad. I'm like, you guys need to save your money. Well, I went in the store and I bought myself a drink. And when I came back out, they're like, hypocrite, you bought a drink and you wouldn't let us buy a drink. And I said, guys, I have assets that pay for my drink. So it's like, you guys don't have assets, so you need to save money until you have assets. So good or bad, It kind of illustrates that point that I really want my kids to understand, and myself and everyone that I'm striving to, influence, is that, like John Maxwell's dad taught him. He says, son, you can pay now and play later, or you can play now and pay later. Right. So Dave Ramsey, live like no one else now so you can live like no one else later. It seems that there is a requirement for us to sacrifice a little bit now. What's the other one? There's another one from, I think, was it Anthony Robbins who said, oh, no, I think it was Jim Rohn, where he said, a fun day at the beach now or own the beach later. Like all of these little reinforcing ideas. So just kudos to you on that, Nicole. It's just so rare. It is so rare and so inspirational when you find someone who's doing that.
I've learned from experience, because I'm 54 and I'm going, oh dear, I didn't plan for retirement like that park director. He's got retirement coming from the city. I don't. So if I look back, I should have, could have, would have done it earlier had I known. Well, I know now, so I'm going to do that now, but you're right. If I had done that earlier, my goodness, we would have a lot more than we do. And I'm not discounting what we do have. Like, we have an amazing, beautiful property. And when I discovered the major definite purpose philosophy, we made it our major definite purpose to pay this off. And we will have that done by the end of this year.
What? Really? Congratulations.
Yeah, it's a beautiful piece of property. It overlooks the Tetons, and there's 6 acres, and we're really, really fortunate.
And you'll be you'll be mortgage free this year.
Yeah. And it's that simple as putting that as a priority. Like, why didn't I think of that before?
Yep. Oh, I'm so excited for you. We're going to have you back on when you get that paid off, and just, see how it feels. Cause just hearing that other people are doing it, you're already glowing now as you're thinking about it. I can see that's like a great sense of joy, right? So good for you. Well, we're coming up to about an hour, and I don't want to keep you too long. I know you've got a lot to do today, but let me see if I can ask you a few quick rapid fire questions. Any of your favorite quotes that inspire you, that stick out?
One of them, I have tons, but one of them that sticks out to me is in The Science of Getting Rich, Wallace Wattles, who, there again, that's one of the old masters, and I just love his stuff. But there's a place that he says that thinking and mind power is one of the hardest things that man is called upon to do. And while I don't disagree with that, I'm kind of lazy. And I would like to think that it's getting easier for us to think in a concentrated manner, because there's so much good material and so much good information out there. And so if I start my day with that mindset, I just have a better day. My employees have a better day. My husband has a better day, because I've developed that mindset. And so doing that, whether you believe it's hard work or not, but doing that mindset power in the morning to set the tone for the day is really, really powerful for me. And then recently, and this is totally a different topic, I just reread the Napoleon Hill's 15 Laws of Success. In fact, we finished it as a group on the mastermind. And one of the chapters that really stuck with me was the one on tolerance. And, you could take that one chapter and write volumes of fabulous information. And for me to presume that I am a tolerant person is probably boastful. And so we could all do better about, I need to say, I can do better about being kind and courageous and gentle and encouraging to other people, because we're all on the same journey, and we're all in different places on that journey. But it's only my job to be aware of where I'm at on that journey, and to bring more people on board. It's darn fun. This self-improvement business is fun. I'm enjoying it.
I'm enjoying it too. You're so inspiring. So you mentioned the morning thing. Do you have a specific ritual you do for your mindset in the morning that you would share?
Yes, I do. And it's a little bit different sometimes. And I travel so much, so it's kind of a challenge to do it all the time. But I'll lay in bed and just say wonderful things like, I'm so grateful for, and I'm so lucky that, and my family is the best, and I have the best job in the world, and my customers just love working with us. And so I'll just say wonderful things about me, my bed, my day, my spouse. And that is awesome. And then when I get out of bed, I'll usually do at least 15 minutes meditation. I'll try to listen to the 1 hour mastermind. And the key is that 15 minutes meditation. And then I'll do some journal writing. and just start out in a positive attitude.
Awesome. Very powerful tips, Nicole. I'm going to steal 2 questions from Tim Ferriss to close these out. I know you're a Tim Ferriss fan. Are there any purchases you've made recently that are $50 to $100 that you found have added a lot of joy or happiness to your life?
I don't know. I buy a lot of books.
A
lot of books.
A recent one that you could share with us?
I just bought 2 real estate books from Bigger Pockets. I can't remember what they were. I think they're multifamily housing. So yeah, I do a lot of books. Let's see. I'll tell one. I was just in Alaska. My daughter lives in Ketchikan, and we went on a boat tour into the Misties. And so that was well worth it. And that was $50 to $100.
What are Misties?
Then, they call them the Misty Fjords. And so it's like going into the set aside wilderness in the Tongass National Forest. So it's like the equivalent to going into the Teton Park Wilderness.
So is there like fog or something that comes up?
Yes.
Oh, really?
And you go in on the water because you can't hike in there. It's a temperate rainforest. So everybody gets around on the water. Yeah. So we went in on a boat and drove up in there and saw some wildlife. So that was very cool. And $50 to $100. I guess that would be it. My trip to the Misty Fjords and books.
There we go. Books in the Misty Fjords. Awesome. All under $100 and can give us very powerful life experiences. So last question for you. If you could put one message on a billboard that everyone in the world would see, what would be your message?
Oh, boy, I should have anticipated this question. I would say work with the best, be the best, strive to be the best, work with the best, and do your best every day.
Awesome. I love it. I love it. Well, Nicole, you are an inspirational freedom crusader in my life. And I know in the lives of our community members who get inspired by you every time you come out and share. And I'm also just really admirable of you in that you're reading, you're growing your knowledge, but you're also taking massive action. And you got $1,500 a month coming in rental income. That's so amazing. So you are well on your way. Thank you for your example. Thanks for your time today. And wish you the very best. Yeah.
Yeah. Back at you, Paul. Thank you.
Thanks, Nicole. And to all of our viewers out there, keep going for your dreams, and freedom is within your grasp. If you're willing to dream it, work for it, and stay persistent. So thanks for tuning in. Let us know down below if you got value from this interview. I'm sure Nicole and I would love to hear your feedback. Well, I'm not sure. I know we would both love to hear your feedback. And thanks for tuning in. All right. Have an awesome day, my friends, and bye for now. Bye.